can imagine and believe that you are breathing in a clear, bright light, which is the very nature of inner peace.
11:20, technically morning, maybe early afternoon, some might say. But we're back. Got a quick stream today. Yo, what's up? What's up, Cyborn? We got a quick stream today. Today we're going to talk about Meta canceling, or at least cutting funding to Reality Labs, its VR / headset Metaverse division. And I want to share a few thoughts on what I'm deeming the OpenAI industrial complex, where I guess I just feel like we're not necessarily in an AI bubble, we're in an open AI bubble. And I feel like it's everyone that's just surrounding OpenAI. Yeah, I feel like I remember your name. Oh, the liquid glass. Oh, nice. Liquid. Nice. Yeah, I feel like so we'll talk about the OpenAI industrial complex. And then if we have time, there's a cool article about some 2026 predictions from some game industry analysts. And we'll take a look at that. Yeah, liquid ass. Actually, I just saw something recently how adoption of, I think it's iOS 26, because they're changing the naming from iOS 18, which is the previous one, is extremely low. Like people just don't care to update. But I mean, Apple's kind of in it now. Like they're committed to this, and they launched like that creative suite recently, and I think there's like they made some changes to include like make some of the software like fit more with the liquid glass stuff, and people are just like, why? But it's like, why? Is because they're committed. Like whether they like it or not, they have to. Yeah, they're pulling Adobe. Exactly. Okay, so let's start with Meta. So I want to talk about this for a few reasons. Mainly because I see it as Meta just completely shifting their strategy now. In an interview in the past, Mark Zuckerberg, Meta founder CEO, he said that, well, obviously, he had his Metaverse vision, which was like that proven to not work like a long time ago. Like I feel like now it's not all of a sudden like, oh, like it's not working. It's like, nah, bro, it hasn't been working. But VR, like the Meta Quest is like, I want to say it's like the best selling VR headset. Like there is some use cases and demand for it, mainly gaming. My also point out porn. Like I'm sure like there are people actually using them. I know like VR chat and like those kind of more social style things are popular. I being work yeah, home in VR. Yeah, and yeah, he's definitely trying to manifest. And the Meta Quest, their VR division, is built on top of Oculus, which Meta bought years ago. And Zuckerberg essentially envisioned the VR as being like your TV at home or your desktop computer, where like your VR would be what you use while you're in the house, and at home you could hook it up to something more powerful. And he envisions smart glasses, which we'll get into that in a sec, which is kind of like the other wearable type of augmented reality platform, as like the one you bring out with you out and about, like your smartphone or your laptop. You should have chose Roblox like a kid did. And so I think, to me, it seems like his vision is not playing out, and or I think cases that smart glasses have just significantly higher demand, especially just the Ray-Ban ones with just the cameras, little microphone, and speakers, and then obviously they hook it up to their Meta AI, whatever. But I think the smart glasses have actually proven to be like customers actually want it, and there's real demand. In Europe, they paused buying because they can't keep up and make enough, and so they need to like do some thing. They said like just build up their supply chains or something. But I think if anything, it shows that that form factor, the smart glasses, is proven and that people actually like want it, and as opposed to kind of just the heavier, bigger VR. While it may provide more features and more immersive and everything, like most people aren't using that. And also, I think it requires, you know, some other significant compute uh to like run. And if you're just like a normie, like, you know, you're probably not going to be looking to get a VR headset. Yeah, content creators. Oh, in the UK, okay, yeah. So yeah, exactly. But I guess like they found a product market fit, you know, and people are buying it. Yeah, AR seems more useful. Yeah, and so I think that's what it's going. And you know, Meta has their Project Orion, or kind of that their new smart glasses that is a complete phone replacement with their little wristband thing that allows you to like act as like the, you know, your, I can't remember what they're calling it, but like, you know, you could use your fingers like a mouse essentially. And that actually, they're selling this actually, or marketing it as a separate piece of technology. They're using it as like you could use infotainment in the car and stuff while you're driving, because you don't need to like type, which is actually interesting, like use cases. But I guess that's, I feel like what they're going to be transitioning to, and more specifically just wearables, because the overall vision that I think Meta has, or what they want, is they want to be what Apple or Google is. They want a platform like iOS or Android, or to have hardware devices that have a platform like the iPhone, or you know, Pixel, or Samsung has with their phone manufacturers. And they want their smart glasses to be that next platform. And that is why, you know, there's Meta's is a phone replacement. It's not, you know, like a phone augmentation, because Meta's the only one who's not incentivized to keep their phone business in line. Apple and Google both have smart glasses platforms, or at least, you know, Apple has them in the works, and they need to keep their existing iPhone line alive to keep the juices flowing and keep things funding. Meta's the only one who doesn't, you know, have that. They are at the behest of Apple and Google with Android and iOS to distribute their, you know, software and their websites and stuff. And so Meta is the only one who's not incentivized to keep the phone alive. Granted, I think it's going to be much harder for someone to not use a phone and just jump straight to using glasses. And also, Meta can't really justify people not having a phone with them until they could actually run their apps, Instagram, and everything on their glasses, because they still need to monetize it. Advertising, Meta's just an advertising company. So yeah, I think like it's interesting seeing like the kind of the different strategy each take, just looking at kind of the incentives they need. Google had it too good back in the day with Google Lens. Yeah, leak out the holes and go through using the car. I guess it's more so just like, you know, like you know, like your center console, instead of like, you know, like my past car, I'd use this like spinner, but you know, like spinner thing, and like it was just so inefficient. Whereas like if you could just like, you're driving and you could just like, you do like a thumb thing or something, you know, with the wristband on, and that acts like, and you could have like a, imagine like a HUD up on the screen, like it's some crazy shit. But I'll start pounding Adderall. Yeah. So, anyways, let's read this and see more specifics, I guess. 2 months before it changed, it's named to Meta. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg personally introduced us to the metaverse for work. And honestly, I do still have hopes that VR is used more for productivity. Like I'm hopeful for that. I want that. You rented a car that projected the HUD display on the windshield. It's pretty sick, not distracting. Yeah, it is cool. Like that's like, it feels weird, like very futuristic. And I wonder like how much it actually costs more to have it up there. Oh, BYD, yeah, the Chinese Tesla. I'm sure they do. They're much further ahead on tech. Um, yeah, Andrew's Meta for Work. Horizon Workrooms envisions a virtual space for workers to collaborate. Today, the company announced it's shutting that space down. Meta has made a decision to discontinue Workrooms as a standalone app effective February 16. I can't imagine though many like enterprises were like seriously using the Horizon Workrooms though. I feel like, and also just like thinking about the technology, I think the good a good example of like one that Meta strategy actually working is with their existing smart glasses, where they just found a single use case that people are using it for, like recording video, content creators, and that's a good way to get like a product market fit. So then you're able to kind of like start testing and slowly widen up the use cases. But also, I think it gets people used to the form factor of like maybe using glasses, to record, or just as like some other device besides just glasses. And I think for this workrooms thing, it's like they're just jumping straight to like the like ultimate use case for it, and they just needed to like slowly transition it. And the fact that VR was hardly even used in general for like consumer things or like entertainment, like people just didn't really, you can't just like jump in and know how to use it. It's like there's a big learning curve and other like weird things like nausea, and if you don't like it, or I don't know. Yeah, and exactly, the memes didn't help it, like because it was just not what people expected. So yeah. And it says, yeah, Meta also no longer sells its headset and software as a service for businesses. We're stopping sales of Meta Horizon managed services, commercial SKUs, Meta Quest. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Meta laid off roughly 10% of its entire Reality Labs division, over 1,000 jobs. In the aftermath, it becoming increasingly clear that Zuckerberg has changed his mind about what the word metaverse actually means. Mobile, yes. Smart glasses, yes. Maybe not VR. Yep. And this is exactly how I see it. They're just going to go for wearables, something you could bring with you. Potato Nintendo Wii avatars. That's good. That's good. Yeah, and they also closed 3 Meta owned sponsored ran game VR game studios, which makes sense. I can't imagine that they made any money, and Meta just needed this to create content for the Meta Quest, because I don't think there was that much of a demand to create it. Like, there's not much incentives when the customer base is extremely small and there's very limited, consumers or gamers or VR gamers you could sell to. Like, why would someone even want to make a game, especially specifically for the Meta Quest, even though it is the best selling headset? But I guess it's a lot of resources. And I think the biggest downside, though, and reason why I would just didn't buy any Meta VR headset, is that you're just locked in with like Meta accounts and everything. Like they want to build a platform, and so like that was their whole goal. They're gonna lock it down. Meta come to reality with their device. These 3 things. Yeah, no, exactly. I'm still optimistic on productivity, and I'm excited for the Steam frame. I'm gonna try and have like a full like virtual desktop office type of thing. Like, I want to give that a go, but I want Steam's new VR headset, just because it's more open. Yeah, I plan to get one, and if possible, I'll definitely try and stream stuff. Hopefully get one in the first round. Okay, what's next for Horizon Worlds? Yeah, draw a line there. Won a few VR experiences and made available on mobile phones too. Oh, interesting. I actually didn't know that. No. I think it's theorized to be like $9.99. I think that's what their current one is priced at. Maybe even more expensive, because this one does have, similar to Meta Quest, it has its own computer on the headset. So technically you don't need another device to like run things. Granted, it'll probably be hella slow, but yeah, definitely cheaper than the Apple Vision Pro. That's like $3,000. Yeah, and that's another like similar strategy, I think, because that's what Apple wanted too. And I think Apple kind of had a similar vision to Meta, where like people will be using this in the work environment and like at home and stuff. And I also think, seems like Apple thought people would wear that like out and about, like like to record like your kid and shit, which is like so dystopian. But I also think Apple just, they didn't do it right. They they launched it and like there's just nothing to do on it, I don't think. um and I heard Ben Thompson, he was on a TVPN. um Ben Thompson, famous like tech analyst, he said that it's actually really good. Uh it's really good for like viewing sports and things, and I do think like entertainment wise it's good, but Apple like overdid it. um to where like they try to like they're like moving you around and like doing all this like crazy things when it's just when he's like literally all they need to do is just set a camera on the sideline of like a sports game, and you could watch it courtside in your VR headset. And he's like, that's all you need to do. And they just like Apple just doing way too much with it, and I could see that totally being the case. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to find it, but come on, where's the AI thing when you need it actually? But I just thought that was a good point, and like just like like Apple literally had like a whole separate production team like in the vein like in a separate car outside, and like there's all this complex things when it's just like, dude, just literally sit it on the sideline and it's immersive. Like you don't need to like do much with it anyways. But not happening. And actually look at right here, it says Meta will continue to develop the metaverse. That's so funny that like the metaverse is like the one thing that like they should kill, and it just hasn't been. It just still exists with focus on mobile phones. Yeah, yep. Spotify car thing, that's a good comparison. Yeah, you I actually have two Spotify car things. Both dead. Although I have seen that you can like kind of put third party, like you can kind of jailbreak it, but as like a kind of cool little desk accessory, which I just use it for a desk accessory even when it was working good. Um, but who knows? We'll see how much it works. Okay, so we got focus on local instead of the fully immersive VR headset that the company initially imagined. To be clear, the term metaverse was coined by Snow Crash author Neil Stephenson to describe a fully immersive shared VR world. Actually, I got the Snow Crash book right here, bro. Look at that. Went to a used bookstore recently, picked it up. But I suppose the mobile makes sense if you consider Fortnite to be a metaverse and don't need to be fully immersive part. Yeah, technically, Fortnite does categorize as metaverse. I have one I bought after the shutdown and jailbroke for a nice little Spotify player. Nice. Yeah, that's what I eventually want to do. I'm just lazy. It says Steam's for true believers in Oculus VR, though for those who thought more would come out of Facebook buying up all those VR game studios, but it seems the primary audience for Meta's VR headset are young teens and kids now. Interesting. So perhaps business to business VR isn't where the resources should go. Yeah. I think though, jumping to business VR was just like an insane gap. Like you got to kind of transition people into it. Here's Meta Workrooms shut down abruptly on February 16th to the point that any data associated with Workrooms will be deleted. The company is recommending trying Arthur, Microsoft Teams, and Zoom Workplace instead. And also writes that the Meta Quest remote desktop app will stick around if you want to emulate multiple virtual monitors in your headset. Okay, actually, this is interesting that they recommended, or does like Microsoft Teams have a VR thing? But Meta actually had a specifically only like commercial business app called Workplace, and so I think, and they canceled that like end of last year. And Workplace was kind of like it was like internal social media site. I know Microsoft has one. It's not SharePoint, but it's called something else. Where like you could like it's like it's like Facebook, but it's only for internal company matters. And they shut that down. So honestly, like, I wonder if that could have been like a larger sign of this. Old Betsy ain't gonna know what VR is or how to use it. Yeah, no, exactly. And actually, I have a clip on my YouTube channel, like from like a year ago, and I said that exact thing. I was like, imagine boomers trying to like figure out how like an Apple VR website works. Like, Like, bro, that's impossible. Like, that's so like, I was like such an optimistic or maybe out of touch view of like how these were actually going to be used. Microsoft Teams. Yeah, well, yeah, Teams is like communication. It's like it was like different. Um I don't know what it was called, but yeah. So it's crazy. Crazy. Okay. Uh I saw this here. Um OpenAI working to build US supply chains for its hardware plans, including robots. Now, actually, going back to my you're in 7th the other week, 9% ads on billboards or for like other companies. Yeah, the tunnel vision bonds, like, yeah. Because I think though, there's definitely like, a lot of companies in Silicon Valley who are startups. It's like they only care about growth, and so the way to get customers, especially customers who are willing to try new software and new things, is to just sell to other startups, and they also only care about growth. And so like it's kind of like they kind of like boost each other up until one of them fails, or goes out of business or something. um yeah, and so it's like it is weird, and obviously only if most startups fail. But you just kind of have to find like the actual customer willing to pay. So that's kind of why growth is really the only metric that matters, and that's why they raise money and they don't care about making money, because if you could just grow enough to where people either like need you, or you're such you solve a problem so well that they can't imagine going anywhere else, then you offer them money to pay. So similarly though, we have OpenAI here, and OpenAI, I'm deeming it the OpenAI industrial complex, because OpenAI has like over $1 trillion. I want to say it's more like $1.4 trillion in like IOUs, essentially, pretty much them saying that yes, we will pay for this, but they obviously don't have $1.4 trillion. They don't have a fraction of that money. And I think the more telling part is even the people, even their investors who say that they will put up this money, don't have that money. And I think if you compare it to Google, Microsoft, any existing tech company, even Anthropic, who is maybe one of their OpenAI's larger competitors, even Anthropic, like they are going to be profitable significantly sooner than OpenAI, purely on selling to businesses, because they're focusing on actual businesses who like are using their AI, their large language models, to solve problems, and they're really just focusing on commercials, and businesses and enterprises are willing to pay. And I think that's really proven to be a much more solid business plan, especially considering that Anthropic is going to be profitable much sooner. I think they even said like it could be 2027 that they are profitable, and like that is very soon compared to OpenAI, who more consumer focused, but again, they're just focused on growth, and because of that, they're kind of like, we'll figure out like profitability later. But like that's where the issues start. And if they go public, to me, I don't think that solves anything. Sure, they raise some money, but now they're at the behest of investors who want them to make money, who need them to be profitable for them to return the money. And that's the whole issue, is like because they have so much outstanding IOUs, or that everyone has invested so much specifically in OpenAI, it's going to take decades for them to make back the money that they gave. And also, the economy has to grow significant amounts for them to even for the economy to even absorb that much like capital, and just for for people to even have that much money to spend. And so I really feel like it's really just OpenAI who is the bubble. like Microsoft and Google, Amazon, all these companies who are building data centers and dishing out still hundreds of billions of dollars, they either have that cash on hand, or it's backed by like real real things like bonds, or like banks who are loaning them money, in Microsoft and Google and everyone actually can pay them back. And so I feel like there's a big difference between like, oh yeah, we're in a bubble, to where I think it's just OpenAI is in a bubble, and those who are dependent and associated with OpenAI. Yeah, and oh yeah, of course, like the power grid is, it's like, yeah, can we even handle all these new connections coming on? And actually, this is another topic here, is like, these big tech companies are the ones who now are building, like actual infrastructure, because there's literally not enough, power or resources to go around for everyone. And I also think, again, going back to this, OpenAI is actually kind of the wild card here, because while Meta, Google, Apple are betting on smart glasses as kind of the next platform, OpenAI is betting on whatever their fucking AI device powered gadget is. It's like, we don't even know what it is, which is, I feel like, is a completely different strategy compared to what all the other big tech companies are taking. And that could either be good or really bad. But they are dependent on that. Like that is what they're betting on, like them making money for. The people who live near the water issues. Yeah, although the water issues, actually I had this here. Most of the water issues are they're more legacy data center issues. Most water center stuff is most data center stuff is closed loop. Like they literally just circle the water and they don't actually use any. And they actually, this is semi-analysis. They like a big data center researcher. It says that where is it? Yeah, it says one of the world's largest AI data centers will use as much water a year as 2.5 average in and outs. Probably. Yeah. I'm not here defending Elon Musk. I mean, but I guess like the whole water issue, like it's kind of like not that, like like how much water they use. And it's just like, I don't know. I guess though, it's just kind of like a weird issue, because it's like scrolling Instagram uses water, me streaming uses water, like having your computer on, like connected to the internet, making pings to all these sites use water. Like, it's just kind of, I don't know. I just feel like it's like a weird like rhetoric type of thing. Like I obviously want to save water, and I don't like want to use water, and we should incentivize these companies to like ensure water is clean and everything. But I feel like, though, it is a little different if you live like right next to a data center. Like there's definitely like that, like those are like, there's issues like around data centers like that. So I think that's one thing. But yeah, and I think honestly power is like the biggest thing. And I think this is why, like, I think this is a like actually good, because the power is becoming more expensive, just simply supply and demand. AI is driving up demand for like a lot of power things, and it's causing like consumers like myself here to have to foot the bill, and like that is not right. And I think it's also just like a larger systemic problem. We are just like, our power infrastructure is like aging, especially in the United States. And also with a lot of the green renewable energy stuff being canceled by Trump administration here, it's just cutting off another line to otherwise supply more power. Like, I don't know. But yeah, back to OpenAI. Yeah, OpenAI is just betting on many things that haven't come to fruition. They're saying that they're giving you IOUs without any real money to back it up and everything. And So I think more so the AI bubble is like the open AI bubble. And also I think with the nvidia one, where nvidia may be, one of the larger like beneficiaries of the bubble. Yo, ketchup banana, what's up? Doing good. How are you doing? But I think, again, like demand outside of the typical bubble suspects, i.e., China, and just outside of the US in general, is extremely high. This is a Wall Street Journal article about how NVIDIA's latest chips, which they just announced maybe last week, 2 weeks ago, Vera Rubin at CES, Chinese AI companies are trying to rent compute outside of China, so they're able to get NVIDIA's latest chips, which are significantly more powerful, especially for inference, which is not training, but when you ask ChatGPT or Claude something, it's just inferring that, and so it's kind of almost like referencing the model, and that's where most of the demand is coming from now. And this Vera Rubin chip is more specifically focused on inference, just because of the fact that that's where the demand is, and you could get a lot of efficiency there. But Chinese companies are literally like scrambling to try and get NVIDIA's chips, and I think that maybe that shows like there's at least some real demand for it, I think. And also I think, again, outside of AI, these chips are useful. Like GPUs are used in any high-end computing, and so I think there's just use cases outside of AI as well. Microsoft will be using it for their own purposes, as will Google and Amazon outside of AI. Although I don't know why they wouldn't do it why they would do it outside of AI, but yeah. To get us out of, honestly. They'd have to get, exactly. But how it's supposed to happen though is that companies who do use large amounts of data do pay up front, and they do like do some sort of like subsidizing, but just with demand being high, it hasn't like worked out like how it's supposed to, unfortunately. And I also think the robot stuff is just, if anything, the robot stuff would be or is a real bubble, especially humanoid stuff, because that is all just piggybacking off of this AI stuff. But I think the robot stuff is just a huge jump from large language models to being like physically in the world. Like that is where I feel like it's going to be a miss. Yeah, it's up to the municipality. It's a good point. Yeah, I read an instance in like Ohio where, the municipality was like, they like couldn't make, they wanted like to do something, but like they couldn't make the tech companies do things, and so they're like, ah, shit. I've also, just like other opinions to this is like I've seen people kind of say that this is just like it's extremely early for OpenAI to be doing this, and that they're just doing it to kind of like juice prospects, and that's really it. Because I think that like the hardware, their like device, I swear it's supposed to come out this year, but now it's 2027. But I think also with AI, like things just move quickly, and who knows in 2 years what like economic climates are. Who like maybe people can't really justify spending $500 on some OpenAI device that doesn't even have a screen or something. I think it'll be cheaper than that. Or supply chain issues. Maybe it'll be extremely expensive to make, and so they can't make it cheap enough to get the mass adoption that they need to get the data, or start selling apps or some shit to make more money. And I also think that there's a huge trust issue, even with like normies. Like they like just they hardly even trust big tech companies, and so it's like, why would you now trust like wearing this thing around your neck and everyone listening to and seeing everything from your point of view? Granted, I know they have their phone in the pocket that does pretty much the same thing, but I think it's like different when like there's a device specifically made for that. And there's been hardware device or AI devices that people have been wearing around their neck as like kind of what OpenAI is kind of envisioning. At least I see what they're going to make is something like that. And it's people don't like it. Like it's like, like they're just gonna be like, am I, being recorded right now? I guess like it's kind of a weird like cultural changes. I feel like that is a hurdle they need to get past, but mainly just I think you could be summed out to trust. And I've been saying this, like I just feel like they should be doing more. And if you compare to China, uh they're more likely to like adopt newer technology and just they trust AI more in general. And you need people to use your stuff to be able to like validate it and update it to so people actually want to use it. Chinese NVIDIA issues, yeah, the H200, yeah, yeah. The although it seems like that has not been panning out as well because it is like specific, like the government said like it's gonna have to be like specific instances that they will allow it. And I think, and also the Chinese government has to allow it, and it seems like they're only giving licenses for like academic, like non-critical things. um but I think that they might shoot themselves in the foot doing that, because even the domestic chips like Huawei, who's probably the next closest competitor in China to nvidia, their chips are still behind nvidia, even the H200, the nerfed versions, which hence why companies are trying to rent chips outside of China now. um so yeah, I'm curious. I don't know how it's going to play out or if it even will matter. Honestly. Honestly. Okay, actually I need to I don't have much longer. Yeah, we said yeah, final doing myself. Yeah. I mean though the issue is I think it's more so than just like even if they had designs to make better chips, they just don't have the chip manufacturing technology. TSMC just had earnings yeah, 1 day ago, and there's great outlook for for like demand for chip manufacturing, but China doesn't, they can't access TSMC or chips made there. And so they TSMC like has this whole supply chain. They have relationships with certain people, and like I did a lot of research into if China were to take over, attack Taiwan, what would be the result of uh like how would we like how could China take over TSMC to use a jet chip capacity for themselves? And really seems like they can't. Even if they took over TSMC, it's like there are many other companies, supply chains that are dependent on each other, and if China were to just come in, they would not be able to keep that up to like maintain all of the equipment and everything. So I don't even think that it I don't know how they're going to catch up. I guess like they have to do a lot domestically to increase chip production, especially like higher end chips. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay, I'm gonna end on this here. The games industry.biz kind of compiled predictions from 2025 and then new predictions in 2026. And some of them are interesting, as you can see here. Um Yeah, let's start. We'll start here. So these guys, Newzoo, actually, they have great reports. Or I would recommend them. Legally, I mean, like technically, I can't show their reports on stream. I don't think, but maybe one day I'll reach out to them and see if I could get permission. Um, but yeah, so they're showing like kind of 2025 predictions and then the 2026 ones, and it's kind of interesting. So like they thought GTA will dominate the industry. Yeah, it would be delayed twice. Could be crazy. A Nintendo Switch may struggle. Cool. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah. Yeah. Um, Ubisoft's actually a wild card. Acquisition, privatization, or dismantling. Uh, yeah, Ubisoft had some. They like stopped. They like stopped halted trading like minutes before they're supposed to announce their earnings or something. And they're like I think Ubisoft's technically a French company, but or maybe a Swedish. And there was like some investigation into like fraud or something. But I think Ubisoft is still ripe for acquisition. Granted, I think there's very few people now who would buy them. Tencent would probably be my bigger guess, but I guess so far nothing. Okay, let's just go to the 2026 ones. Yeah, and so this is this is crazy to put. Valve will shock the industry with Half-Life 3. Valve will re-enter the spotlight by officially revealing Half-Life 3 not as a nostalgia play, but as a statement about where high-end PC gaming is heading. The reveal will be as much about platform positioning and technology leadership as it is about the game itself. Yeah, this like straight up saying that they're releasing Half-Life 3 is crazy. Here's a Steam machine. Actually, is that what they're calling it? I don't know if is that officially what they're calling it? Okay, yeah, it is. Yeah, the Steam machine. I could see them releasing, kind of their whole suite of new hardware. Um, yeah, on as well as Steam Deck, because they have, yeah, so they'll have their Steam Deck, the new Steam controller, the new Steam machine, and the new Steam frame. Yeah, it's more like a PC, but it's like, yeah, kind of like a console if you just have running Steam OS, I guess. So you can play Steam games, your Steam library, and some others, because it will just be a computer. And I could see them totally releasing something Half-Life related on these, almost like they released that Portal game or like experience when they first released the Steam Deck. And also similar to how they released Half-Life Alyx when they released their last VR headset, the Index, Valve Index. But straight up just releasing Half-Life, saying they're going to release Half-Life 3 is crazy. But I could see them, it potentially being able to be ran on all of these devices, including a VR experience or something, like something to kind of like just show off all of the interconnectivity and stuff. So yeah, actually I've been trying to use my Steam Deck a lot more this year, trying to actually learn. So I guess, yeah, so this is crazy to say that Half-Life 3 will come out. I also think GTA 6 will be delayed further, triggering further expectations. Further delay in GTA 6 would start to test industry and investor patience, shifting the narrative from confidence in Rockstar's polish to concerns around scope and development complexity. Yeah, I don't know. It would be crazy for them to delay again. Especially considering how long it's taken them to even make the game too. And I wonder, like, what is ambitious about this next game? Like, how is it not just GTA 5, but instead of LA, it's Florida? Which, I mean, that is the game, but like, technically, I guess behind the scenes, under what's different. Says AI investment will quietly raise the barrier to entry for gaming. AI investment will increasingly absorb memory, storage, and component capacity, putting structural pressure on gaming hardware availability and pricing. Yeah, this will raise the effective entry bar for new players and force developers to temper high-end technical ambitions as cutting-edge games risk targeting an audience that is simply too small. I think that this is the wrong perspective. I think, yes, PC game entry level to PC gaming will be more expensive. We've seen RAM prices be skyrocketed due to AI, and it's hard to justify committing base at the fabs like TSMC that we're looking at, and for like DRAM providers like Samsung, SK Hynix, who make RAM. It's hard for them to justify putting capacity towards these consumer devices that have puny margins and just barely make them money, when they could sell the same thing in a higher end device that they could then sell for 10x the cost to nvidia or some chip maker or just a commercial entity that is using it for AI. Unfortunate from the gamer's perspective, but from the business perspective, like it's kind of a no-brainer. I think that what the companies will do is that they're just going to kind of barely maintain their consumer brand just to have enough to keep this gamers satiated, but it's not going to be there's not going to be a surplus to the point where like prices are reasonable as they were in the past. I also think that this is going to force game developers to finally get their shit together when it comes to development and stop passing off their laziness to beefy graphics cards. That's my optimistic view, where game developers are finally like, okay, let's actually put some time into making this game more performant and efficient, clean up our code bases. Like, we're not going to be pushing these huge technically advanced games, so we could take some of this tech debt that we had and maybe budget time to improve it so that it could actually run better. And like, maybe we could still get better better visuals, but we're just going to focus more on efficiency rather than pawning off our tech debt to just large graphics cards, because those bits may be no more, especially with the kind of bullshit AI frame generation, which I absolutely hate, because just make more efficient games. And I know I'm saying this from just like a user, it's like just make more efficient games. I know there's a lot of complexity and budgeting and more nuances to it, but also just make more efficient games. So I don't know. And I think though I'm curious what the pricing of this will be, considering how expensive DRAM is right now. I was watching like a Linus Tech Tip videos, and there were some leaks from I don't know, Steam machine price leak from like Czech Republic or Czechia. Yeah, Czech retailers listed about $950, and the 2 terabyte model about $1,000. And this includes and this potentially includes like taxes and other things, so it could also be a little bit cheaper than these. Yeah, they estimate like $800, which is actually very reasonable. Granted, I don't know exactly the specs and everything, but I think if these become more popular, then yeah, it might be like incentivize game developers to like care more about lesser powered machines. But I think this is still going to be kind of niche. I don't think a lot of like normie gamers, or like those who like maybe just have a console, like they're not going to get this and like swap off the console. I don't think that would happen, at least not initially. Oh yeah, and says adoption. Steam Machine may launch but struggle to find an audience. Adoption is likely to remain niche even if the device is simple to use. Console players will see little reason to switch without clear exclusives or price advantage. Yeah. Granted, I don't think that they are going for like the console player. They're literally targeting someone like me. Like, I hardly play AAA games. Like Cyberpunk 2077, maybe like the one AAA game I play. I don't even have Battlefield 6, although that might be one. I guess my point is I don't play many AAA games. I play a lot of like, like RimWorld simulation games, more indie or like AA games. And I think the Steam Machine is perfect for that. Because I don't need like extremely high end graphics cards or like graphics. But we'll see. Okay. You're CEO of Canton Games. I actually don't know who are these guys. Oh, I love this website. Uh, okay, it looks like an analyst type on Japan's game industry. Um, okay, here. I just care about 2026. Microsoft will go all in on Switch 2. I'm actually maybe a next stream. I don't think I'm gonna be able to stream next Friday. Fridays are gonna be my stream days, but I will stream sometime next week. I'm just trying to go for one a week right now, minimum. Um, maybe Wednesday will be my stream day next week. We can check Twitch title, but I do want to look more into Microsoft's gaming strategy, especially with Xbox. They recently had layoffs. I think I want to say like maybe not, but I'm just unclear with what they're doing with Xbox. And if they're gonna go into the handheld more, or if they're just kind of gonna be a licensing type of situation, like they're kind of doing almost already with other handhelds. You'd have like the Xbox button or some shit. But interesting. I don't know why they wouldn't release on the Switch 2 if they are also releasing on PlayStation. Like why not? So interesting. Sony will be challenged on mobile. MLB The Show, Ratchet and Clank, Ranger Rumble, Horizon Steel Frontier. Sony started an attack on the mobile front towards the end of 2025, which may go badly. The Horizon title, for instance, how big is the audience for an MMORPG based on the Horizon franchise? Oh, like Horizon Zero Dawn? I actually think that's like I feel like it more than they might think. I feel like that I don't know. I might even try that. Why was this title announced for the PC too, but not for the PS5? Yeah, that's weird. Wait, what? I do understand why Sony saw the need to give mobile a proper shot, but however, I also think they'll continue to crush it with their core PS5 is. Okay, I don't. This is like I don't really know about this. Like Ubisoft will be in better shape. There are good reasons that why Ubisoft has been taking a beating from the market over the last years, and challenge will remain. But I think the punishment has gone way too far now. Today, there are random mobile game studios in the world that are worth more than the French powerhouse. Bro, really? Ubisoft's stock. What's their market cap? Dang, they're not even hit a billy. Not even worth $1 billion. Which is actually crazy because honestly, like they have really good IPs. They have all the Tom Clancy stuff, Assassin's Creed. Not even $1 billion because I would consider the Assassin's Creed brand to be worth like at least a few hundred million. That's crazy. Yeah, people will forget Ubisoft still have some great teams that just produced a new Assassin's Creed hit. Yeah, oh yeah, Anno, that's a good IP. Yeah, strong IP roster, totally. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Steam Deck 2 would be interesting. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, okay. More investment coming into games. I'm not stupid enough to predict that the industry will turn around, but it will happen eventually. People will want to invest to take advantage of that. So I expect to see more angel investors. Yeah, I honestly think that there is going to be some sort of AI angle in games. And I think especially the big studios, if they could figure out any way to make games faster or make employees more productive so they could like save time or money elsewhere, like they're gonna do it. And I think that will be a part of the turnaround. I think, assuming I guess I didn't really think that gaming industry is like declining, but interesting. The end of platforms. Console will of course endure, but I do see it mattering less what platforms you make your games on. I think that's already the case. That's actually a good analysis. I think 2026 will see more central experiences where it doesn't matter how you access them. Maybe more platforms will get added to that ubiquity. Make good enough game. It doesn't matter how your players access it. Yeah, I think this still holds true. I think the exclusivity thing is really more of a console thing, anyways. More co-op games. Interesting. More ducking and diving. Particularly those companies that have found ways to make it work and make great stuff happen. It almost feels like we have a generation of real entrepreneurs who are just finding a way. In 2026, I expect to see those people building new businesses, finding new ways to make money, pulling in new revenue streams, finding new communities to work with, and new kinds of games to make. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, let's see. There next week is the World Economic Forum, which I'll be covering during whenever I stream, we'll be covering it. And it's also a huge earnings week. Actually, that's the next week. 28th. Yeah, that's the next week is big earnings, big tech earnings, which we'll be covering. But we got the World Economic Forum next week. Oh, and it's also it's in Davos. I thought that was something different. Something different. And then what is this? AI Impact Summit? It's interesting. Like a crypto event. But yeah, earnings season is coming up. Actually, let's take a look at just some stock market's up today, actually. Look at some before we close out here. nvidia, not bad for nvidia. They've been pretty sideways though this year, which makes sense because they're already very I won't say overvalued, but maybe they are. They're kind of bloated. They're expensive, I think is a better word. And a lot of people are bought for their future hype, and like we are in that future hype now. So I imagine it'll be pretty sideways until Vera Rubin. Maybe it's more so the demand is extremely high and they're able to make more money with that. But I feel like Nvidia needs to continue to grow their like revenue and profits. Yeah, and right here, this is exactly why I agree with this. As someone who owns Nvidia. Rocket Lab, this has been my darling lately. It's my new bit. This is my new Nvidia. Dang, it's up 8% just today. Holy. I've been trying to wait for a pullback to buy more, but like it just keeps going up. I do think though it's very expensive right now. Yeah, look at this. Look at this growth from just end of last year. Like $40. It's more than doubled since December. Like it's rising a little too hot, too quick for me now. But I do have good future hopes and future prospects. And they are signing like real contracts that are netting them like actual money. So I think that it's good, but yeah, it's up 300% in the past year. Crazy. And they are still the second most launched rocket launch provider behind SpaceX, even though SpaceX has like triple what they have. But I think the fact that they are a vertically integrated space company will hopefully differentiate them, and we are seeing that with their margins, because in any vertically integrated place you should have better margins. I don't know if they list that here. Anyways, what else is going on? Supermicro's up. Who's this one? Intuitive Machines. It looks like they completed an acquisition up 12%. What do they actually do though? I've heard of them, but I want to see what they've done. This is 2024. I didn't one of theirs like it tipped over or something? I don't know. I need to do a roundup of all the there's a lot of space companies being popped up, and I feel like it's kind of unknown generally because it's more like infrastructure. Like they have one going up to the moon this year. This one's this year. And there's a lot of space stuff actually. We could do a whole space episode. There's a Artemis, which is the NASA's moon mission. They recently had a press conference. Yeah, right here. Actually, let's watch this video and we'll end on this here.
We begin this hour with the countdown to a new lunar mission. NASA says it could be just weeks away from launching astronauts on a flight around the moon for the first time in more than half a century. Final preparations are underway at Kennedy Space Center in Florida, where the Artemis 2 moon rocket is expected to roll out to the launch pad tomorrow. Mark Strassman is there. Mark, good morning.
I actually didn't even... Is this a manned one though? Oh, wait, did I hear that right?
Where the Artemis 2 moon rocket is expected to roll out to the launch pad tomorrow. Mark Strass.
Like, this has cost so much money. It's insane. And it's unfortunate that it's all just bureaucracy. It's the military industrial complex. This is I'm pretty sure this is United Launch Alliance, which is Boeing, Lockheed Martin. Like, they have the contract. And it's because it's the old military industrial complex. They know how to play the game. They're all intertwined in, senators and House members, like districts and funding and everything, that like, if you just like cut this off, like it would cause so many jobs and all these other things to go away. But it's just because military industrial complex is building this instead of SpaceX, Rocket Lab, any other private launch provider.
Is there, Mark?
Besides those of the military industrial complex.
Good morning to you, Nate. Behind me, that's the VAB, the Vehicle Assembly Building, the mammoth structure where the SLS rocket was built and is now garaged. And when that rocket rolls out of that building tomorrow, the future of America's moon missions will roll with it. Behind all that scaffolding stands the Space Launch System rocket, NASA's answer to anyone who's ever asked for the moon.
It's an experience of a lifetime, to be honest with you.
The building of the rocket, the stacking of the rocket, start to finish, is you.
Effectively, yeah.
We met Matt Check, the Senior Vehicle Operations Manager here. Inside the Vehicle Assembly Building, his team has built NASA's most powerful deep space rocket ever. From its base to the Orion capsule on top, it's as tall as a 33-story building.
Wow.
Check took us 300 feet up. For an up-close tour of the rocket, his team has grown ground up.
There's nothing about human spaceflight that is easy or simple.
Hundreds of people have worked round the clock 7 days a week since November of 2024.
A million things have to go right, and only one thing has to go wrong.
That's absolutely right. Everything we do here is dependent on the person before you having done their job and done it well.
On Saturday, the SLS rocket will roll out to the launch pad ahead of a test flight. Artemis 2.
Right. Okay. It is just a test flight. That's what I
will
thought.
Launch Orion and a crew on a 10-day mission.
Oh shit. Okay, but there's actually going to be a crew. Okay, I didn't realize that.
Around the moon and back to Earth.
I thought this already happened, but it's literally taking so long. I think they did an unmanned one with the Orion capsule. But it's literally just taken so long that...
Not since Apollo 17 in 1972 will astronauts fly this close to the lunar surface. The crew of 4 has trained for this moment for 2.5 years. Pilot Victor Glover, mission specialists Christina Cook and Canadian Jeremy Hansen, and Commander Reed Wiseman.
We are human operators on scene as we head out to the moon, 250,000 miles from Earth, and we are really there to take care of the spacecraft, to work with Mission Control in Houston and get this mission accomplished.
And to tee it up.
Such a fucking, like, military, like...
for Artemis 3.
That's what we talk about every day.
Artemis 3 will be a moon landing, NASA hopes, by 2028. The Chinese intend to land on the moon before 2030. And Artemis 2 is a critical milestone in America's second space race.
Does the capsule bring home the responsibility of making sure everything goes perfectly?
It really does. There's a special responsibility that comes with that. Each one of us has met the 4 crew members, and it's our responsibility when we launch them to make sure they come back.
Once this rocket gets to the launch pad, NASA will begin a series of critical tests, and how well those tests go will help determine when this mission should launch. Adriana, the first launch window opens on February 6th.
And we'll know you'll be there, Mark. Thank you so much.
Oh, February 6th. Okay. That's actually soon. Oh, that's the scene I should have used. That's actually soon. Like 3 weeks. I didn't realize it was that soon, and I also didn't realize that this was just like an actual manned mission. So we'll try and, if it's at a reasonable time, we'll definitely try and stream it. That'd be cool. But 2028 is optimistic, and they're Dustin, I think his name, from Smart Every Day, like a while back, did a video. Yeah, yeah. He did a video on kind of moon stuff, and like,
all right,
he
so
gave a talk
in
front of a lot of space industry guys, and just kind of like questioning like if they really have a plan to get to the moon, because it's kind of crazy. Like how much money and everything we spent, and also like how many rockets it's going to take us to get there. Would recommend watching this. Okay, that's going to be it for today's stream. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Hopefully starting streaming more. Try and do 1 day a week, Friday. Although next Friday I am busy, so I'll stream a different day next week. Maybe Wednesday. But you can check Twitch title or follow me on Twitter, linked down below, for updates or anything. So I appreciate everyone tuning in, hanging out. Hopefully you learned something, or were entertained. But like, subscribe, and see you guys in the next one. Bye. Also, I remember last stream I was like, where's my ending screen? But I remember I don't have an ending screen. I feel like it's like a meme. I'll make one someday. Let's do be right back. All right, see ya. Here we go. Have a fun song to go away or to leave with.
Key man, no I got skill. I go sick on the beat, man's ill. Keep the key man, no I got skill. I go sick on the beat, man's ill. I go sick on the beat, man's ill. I go sick on the beat, man's ill. You got to put the. Now you know it's
right, see you, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.